good. Did you see a show, or...?
No, I was doing a tour line.
Just to... Cool. Well, welcome to the Globe. As I'm sure you're fairly instantaneously aware, this is not the original. The original Globe was about half a mile that way, underneath what is now the end of an architecturally listed building called Anchor Terrace, and indeed part of the end of Southwark Bridge. You can get very confused. You are the absolute spitting image of an actor I've just been directing at RADA, so it's really rather shocking. I turned around and went, what the heck? He's cheating. He's pretending to be an American college student. Very disconcerting. The original was, as I said, about half a mile that way. For reasons we don't have to explain, it disappeared, and I'll explain why later. This is a reconstruction as far as possible, using the techniques that Shakespeare's company used to build. As you can see, it's all put together out of wood. It's a large oak frame building with oak joists, pegs holding them together, lath and plaster walls, lime and rough cast, if you know your Midsummer Night's Dream, thatched roof. All the bricks are made the way bricks were made in Shakespeare's time. The balusters are turned by hand, that sort of thing. It's as accurate as we can make it, in as far as we know what accurate is anyway. Of the original Globe site, they've only excavated 10%. So we know how big it was, we know which way it faced, that's pretty much it. There are no pictures of the inside of the Globe, there are descriptions, there are pictures of the outside of the Globe. So this is sort of best guesstimate, if you like. With two fairly obvious and fairly glaring exceptions, I would have thought, the first of which is concrete. As you're probably aware, the Elizabethans weren't strong on concrete. The yard, this area here where the audience stand to watch the play, in Shakespeare's time would have just been dirt, earth, possibly held together with a ballast of hazelnut shells. Hazelnuts were used in dyeing for Elizabethan clothes, and we think they took the excess to use to stabilise the dirt. When they excavated the Rose site, which was a rival theatre to the Globe, similarly half a mile that way, they discovered the yard was actually covered in hazelnut shells. So either Elizabethans ate hazelnuts in industrial quantities like popcorn, or they were using it actually to try and solidify the dirt. We took the decision 12 years ago that asking an audience to stand for 3 hours in mud was going to have a fairly serious effect on ticket sales. So we went for the concrete option. But the biggest problem, and the biggest bar to authenticity in this building, is because of the roof. It's thatched. Seen thatch before. I'm sure there's not a lot of it in Manhattan, I admit, but it's a form of roofing still fairly common in the English countryside. It's sort of dying out. It's very expensive. It's very skilled labour. It is not, in all honesty, the most effective form of roofing known to man in the 21st century. That, as you can see, actually, you've already seen it, it's all weathered in, but actually we've just had it redone. The whole thatch has just been done in October, November of last year. Because it only lasted 12 years, which is not that impressive for a roof. Though we had to be all very terribly careful, because you'd be in here. I was looking at a group from, I can't remember which American college in here, and I said, oh, and the thing about thatch is it's not the most effective form of roofing known to man, and a voice from up on the thatch went, yes, it bloody is! Dissing this man's career. It is, I mean, you know, it is what it is. It is, on the other hand, illegal in London. You are not allowed to thatch buildings in London. And you haven't been since actually well before the Great Fire of 1666 that destroyed most of the city on the North Bank. The first ever building regulations in this country, and I love this, I only discovered this when they did the thatching, the first ever building regulation in this country was in 1216, banning the use of thatch within the city walls of London. It was by 1216 they knew it was a fire risk. By 1599 they were fairly aware, but everyone did it anyway. 1666 they rather brought the brunt of it as the place burned to the ground. We had to get special permission to build this place because of where it is. I'm sure you can imagine the same if you're in New York. You know, you tell a local city authority that you want to build a large wooden thatched building in the middle of town and then fill it full of people, and they tend to get a little jumpy. So most of the concessions to authenticity are because of fire risk. If you look up at the most obvious one, if you look up at the roof, you can see they're not entirely Elizabethan fire drench systems sticking out of the top. They would douse the thatch in something like 30 seconds. More importantly, to the building itself, the staircases, the two staircases on the outside to get to the upper two galleries, are twice the width that they were in the original Globe, so we can get people out quicker.
Is it handicap accessible up there?
No, not up there. It's handicap accessible in here, only in the yard.
That's a big concession, isn't it?
I think we probably had to get special permission for that as well. There's so much of what, I'll talk a bit more about something else we can't do as well, but so much of what you can't do with this. I mean, that would have put a lift in, at which point it starts to get problematical about what you're really doing with this place, I think. There are 4 entrances, as you can see, into the yard, again, because we do allow disabled in and handicapped in. That's so we can get people out as fast as possible if there's any problem. We're not allowed to put the spikes along here that stop the lower classes getting up into the posh seats. You've been to see a show here, you'll know we have stewards who do it rather efficiently. The biggest drawback and the biggest flaw to authenticity, I think, is the number of people we're allowed in here. When the Citizen reopens in April, assuming everything stays roughly as it is, there will be 1,600 people in here per performance. 900 on the 3 galleries, and 700 standing down there. It's crowded, it's not packed, but it's crowded. In Shakespeare's time, building the same size, it's double that. It's 3,000 people. 2,000 on the 3 galleries, and 1,000 standing down there. Wow. So the first thing to get rid of is this idea of theatre as a nice sort of polite middle-class place where everyone's terribly well behaved. You know, 1,000 people down there, you're at a rock concert. It's sort of that level of crush. You could body surf your audience if you wanted to. So, I think you would. Someone's done the math. If you look, there are 5 rows of benches in this bay. To get 2,000 people on these 3 galleries, they should probably have to have 10. Did you say you'd been to the Bush?
Yes.
Is the Bush theatre? I can't remember.
No, it's not as bad as it used to be.
It's not as bad as it used to be,
It's got proper seats now.
It's got proper seats. Because in the old days at the Bush, you know, as you sat like that, that was the back of the next person. So I think it must have been like that. I mean, a very small version of the Globe was the old-fashioned. You know, it's tarted up now, isn't it? Very nice. I mean, we'll never be allowed to do that because the authorities will not let us put 3,000 people in here, which is a great shame because it'd be nice to see what it'd be like. Probably not for the 3,000 people, but and of course the audience goes all around the stage, over to there, over to there. And when I say all around, I mean it because in Shakespeare's time, and again, sadly not now, and I'll explain why in a minute. In Shakespeare's time, the second most expensive place to sit are called the gentlemen's rooms. If you're a rich merchant, a well-to-do city person, you pay more. We don't honestly know how much, though you may hear someone up there saying it's 6pence, that's a guess. To pay, it's in the second best place, which are the 2 boxes there. Same in the middle gallery on the other side. Can you see they've got chairs, not benches, they've got hangings, they've got paintings. And that's where the well-to-do of the city would sit. But the really rich, the aristocratic rich, would pay up to £1 by 1600, which is 12 pennies, which is a lot of money, sort of this is Broadway prices, to sit in the Lord's rooms, which are the very best seats in the house. And the Lord's rooms, I love it because 50% of you look that way, are up there. There are 2 boxes either side of the balcony. If you look, there's a centre area of the balcony that sits forward, that's the musicians' gallery, and then 2 boxes either side, that's audience in Shakespeare's time. We're not allowed to do that because of health and safety, because it involves taking people backstage to get them there, and you can't insure that, so we can't do it. That's an example of how these things don't work. But in Shakespeare's time, that's where the really rich would sit. You are, of course, paying a lot of money to sit behind the play. Fairly obviously, you get a lousy view of the play. I'll explain, I hope, during the course of the morning why that doesn't matter. You're paying, of course, to be seen. Look at me, I can afford these seats, look at my clothes, look how rich I am. You're also sort of paying, I think, to watch the audience, which is part of the fun, and you're also paying to sit out of the sun. In the afternoon, the sun is behind the stage. As you probably know, Elizabethans hate sunshine. Tan is just an embarrassment. You know, you've seen those pictures of Queen Elizabeth with an absolute white face, that's fashion. And also the dyes in Elizabethan clothes bleach very quickly in sunlight. So you don't want to sit for 3 hours in your Elizabethan Versace because it will be grey by the time you do that. But primarily you're paying to be seen. Once theatre goes indoors, after 1608 they perform on the north bank of the river in the winter at an indoor theatre called the Blackfriars. And at the Blackfriars you can hire a stool and sit on the stage to watch the play. If anyone tries to tell you it's about art and culture, you don't sell seats on the stage during Hamlet unless money is your primary concern. It's quite a long way south of you, but so you've been to the Blackfriars. The people who rebuilt this have rebuilt the Blackfriars for a theatre company in Virginia, in Stanton, Virginia, and they do it. They have the audience sitting on stools on the stage during the show. I've directed for them. It is truly terrifying.